A slit in my chair's worn crimson leather sighed as the topic fidgeted me some. They say it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. I supposed there's truth in that. But to make that my truth, I must add how such a love could never be replaced. To honestly say Ellie was the love of my life. She remains the only one.
And is her death what started you on your work? Did you devote 2 decades of your life to inventing time travel in hopes of saving her?
Though I paused in contemplation, I'd had the answer ready for 40 years. Could there have been a nobler motivation?
I admit, I didn't expect such romantic notions when this interview began. I had learned, of course, of your wife's tragic death and assumed it was part of the impetus. But as your work has made you one of the world's wealthiest people, I assumed financial gain drove you to hide in a lab for 19 years.
It left me strangely intrigued how Miss Matthews set the tablet on the sofa cushion beside her and jotted the odd point here or there in a paper notebook with a pencil. Indeed, she must have wondered why I granted her, of all people, this interview. Hide myself. She was clever, carefully considering her words but shooting them out in feigned spontaneity. I'd chosen well. And what do you suppose I missed out there in the real world? I endured the Trump and Biden years, but happily avoided the mess that came not long after. Turns out the world is still steeped in prehistoric human mentality. I crossed my legs and raised my glass to float smoky notes of my favorite Isla whiskey through stimulated nose hairs, studying the squint my words pressed onto the reporter's eyes. To this day we have yet to find a cure for the cancer of racism in human society. I missed the riots over unification with the UK and the obliteration of 3 Islamic states. No, Miss Matthews, financial gain had nothing to do with me hiding myself, as you said.
You really see the world through such a cynical lens?
Oh, it's a well-earned negativity, as any thinking person would agree. I merely mean to convey to you my true motivations. You see, my inventions were not driven by profit, and my only splurging of any prosperity from there has been this home. Jessica Matthews uncrossed her legs and set her forearms on her thighs.
This house, lovely as it is, doesn't seem much of a splurge, Mr. Hollister.
Miss Matthews, Jessica, let's dismiss the formalities. Call me Marcus. I may have the years and grays to go with them, but believe me, I do not merit such respect.
But, sir,
she straightened in her seat.
Your accomplishments changed the world, created a new industry, an entirely new and safe means of recreation and vacationing, improved our nation's military, and made you filthy rich. And you live in isolation in this modest 4-room home in the middle of nowhere.
What is the point of money and fame but to buy the life one wishes to live? I'm not a total hermit. Reclusive, yes. But if you thought you'd be the first human I've seen in years, I'm sorry to disappoint. I have a cook 3 evenings and a housekeeper 1 day each week.
Friends? Family? You were more open in your dealings after your years in the lab. You ran a multi-trillion-dollar corporation and contracted for the military. The world knew you for a time before your reclusive ways returned.
Family? I must have drifted in contemplation considering the word. Jessica waited. One of the points I liked about her style, and I had rewatched her interviews, studying her, is her giving the subject time to collect his thoughts and answer her questions or respond without feeling obligated to fill the awkward gaps of silence carved into the conversation. Conversation. Yes, I wanted to have a dialogue, not to be interviewed. And Jessica Matthews had shown herself to be a master conversationalist more than a deep-cutting interrogational journalist. Ellie. She was all the family I had. I know you've done your homework before coming to see me. My childhood in foster homes has been well documented.
Friends? Your former partner? Co-workers? Do you have any social interactions beyond your home staff?
The scotch whirlpooled in the tumbler as my closed eyes aimed themselves at the ceiling. Jessica hadn't even asked about the internal twilight cast from the one dim lamp when she arrived and took her seat. Curious eyes scanned my bookcase as she took a quick inventory of the 400 books lining two opposite walls. Did she hope to learn something about me by the written word in my possession? Perhaps I had to concede the approach sound. A complete profile of a man could be constructed by such means. Of course, that man would not be me, as I hadn't read half of those textbooks and none of the novels. There, you listed 3 very diverse categories. I smiled warmly at the lovely young lady. My former partner was never a friend, not even when things were good between us. Co-workers were subordinate suck-ups, sycophantic leeches latched onto whomever had the richest blood. Memories of those years pinched the back of my throat more than the inhaled mouthful of Lagavulin tingling my taste buds. Friends? Jessica matched my forward lean, as if a prized secret were about to be slipped into her ears only.